Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our Signworld public webinar today. We're excited to bring another session where we'll have a few owners on our system sharing with you as potential owners that are considering this business, their perspectives and their experiences running their sign companies. For those of you who have never participated in one, I'll just give you kind of some quick overview of what to expect during this next hour together. First, we're going to have the owners give an introduction about themselves. They're going to share a little bit about where they're located, their backgrounds, their locations, their employees, their top customers, their level of sales, and what they did before they joined Signworld. So you just understand a little bit more about them as individuals and the companies that they have. Following that, we're going to turn the floor over to our participants that have logged in to join in for the session live. And each of them will be given an opportunity to ask an individual question that each of the owners will respond accordingly. If time permits, we'll go around for a second or third round of questions. But I will ask you to come off mute by name and just ask you to keep it to a single question each time so every participant is allowed an opportunity to ask their own questions as well. So with that said, let's first introduce you to our owners who are going to be our panelists today. I'm going to go with Michael first because he was logged in first. No offense there, Michael. Actually, we got two Michaels. Oh my goodness. All right, how are we going to do this? Who has a nickname?
I always go by Mike.
You go by Mike? All right, good. We're going to go by Michael first, and then we'll go to Mike next. So, Michael, go ahead and give an introduction.
Good afternoon or good morning in some cases. I'm Michael Leonard in Charlotte, North Carolina. I own QC Signs and Graphics, both for the Queen City and Quality Control. I don't know if my whole spiel of just about me and thank. All right. So been in business about 6.5 years. Had zero, and I mean zero interest in ever starting or owning my own company. Went through some corporate layoffs in retail, spent 23 years. Last job was running a nine-figure business, selling to 9 different countries. And I had done that quite a bit and decided to leave retail and do something of my own. Um, and so today we are in a 3,600 square foot facility, which I actually started in. I have 14 employees. Our 2026 sales will be about flat to last year. We have focused now. I focused on growth for several years. We are focused on profitability going forward, and we are trying to stop growing. So we'll be about $2.4 million in sales. I'm very fortunate. 4 years ago, just 2.5 years into this business, we got an inquiry through our website to start wrapping buses, trains, and streetcars for the city. That turned into an RFP and a multi-million dollar contract, multi-million dollar contract with the city of Charlotte. And today we're the sole supplier for all advertising graphics for their system. We also would say this week, again this morning, we were doing our 27th exhibit at the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So we're excited to be a big part of that and a big part of our community here in Charlotte.
Awesome. Thanks for that introduction, Michael. Mike, if you can give a brief background about yourself and your business, that'd be great.
Sure. Mike Sobel. I own Mark Your Space. We are located in Bartlett, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. I opened January 1st, 2010. So 17 years now, or 16. Yeah, this is the 17th year. I am currently in a facility just under 5,000 feet. The first place that I had was just under 2,000 feet. And I have 9 employees. Our 2026 sales projection is approximately 1.75 million. Our biggest customer, I'm going to define this two ways. Our biggest customer is DLA Architects, who buys exactly nothing from us, but they provide us a window to a ton of business. They are an architecture firm that specializes in schools. So they do a ton of school renovations, additions, and builds. And so we get to do the signs on the exterior and interior for them. What's beautiful about that is some of the deals run through DLA, but afterwards, anything they want later on, even years later, they come directly to us for the schools. So we acquire a lot of clients. So that's why on one half, that's my biggest client. On one of my other hands, I have a client called Medline, which if you've ever been in an emergency room, you've seen their stuff, whether it's the Band-Aids, the kits. Just like Michael, I got an inquiry on the internet and all of a sudden they are our client, and that's been going well. In fact, this summer we're hoping to paint a water tower for them.
Painting a water tower.
Yeah,
Sounds like
we're
you're
not
gonna need
going to do the
another
work.
boom
I'm
truck.
subbing it all out, but yes,
Well, have fun with
painting a
that
water
one.
tower.
We'll
Yep.
have another water tower in our wall of fame or our showcase projects to highlight. So that'll be exciting. Good for
Exactly.
you.
Yep.
All right, very good. Thank you for that introduction, Mike. And Cheryl, last but
Hi
not least,
there.
thanks for joining us today. Let's make sure your audio is working.
Yes, is it working?
It sure is. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Cheryl, we're just doing quick overviews and introductions. So Sheree should have sent you a list of questions that we ask you to just share with the participants so they have a little bit of an understanding about you and your background and your business. Do you have that list of
Okay.
questions handy?
I do. What part of the metro market am I? Well, the name of my business is Signworks Inc. And we are located in the San Francisco major metro area. I've been in business for 18 years. I do not have a facility. I started with a facility, and then I went to a quasi-virtual, and now I'm fully virtual. So I operate from my home office. I have folks that I consider employees. However, they're 1099 people, so they don't just support me, they support their own business interests as well. I have a fabricator who has a shop in Hayward. His name is Andrew. I have an install team. Dino leads that team, and he has other installers as well. I use Easily for my design services. And I have a hodgepodge of other folks that I use depending upon what the task is at hand. Um, I am fairly private with regard to revealing my numbers. I don't do that freely or easily, but I will say that I have a major client in Trader Joe's, and I do over $100,000 a year worth of business with them alone. My background is actually I came out of the tech sector. I was in the tech sector in the early 80s, and then went into mortgage lending and banking. Did that for about 12 years as a broker. Um, and then I think my last position before I stepped out into the uh, owner world was as the community relations officer for an Asian bank in the San Francisco metro. So I met a lot of people because I went to a lot of events, including the now Mayor Gavin Newsom and many others, because I was the face of the bank. And so I went to a lot of those affairs. And I think it really did help in terms of being connected in a lot of places when I launched the business. Have I
Yeah,
covered everything?
you sure did. That was
Okay,
fantastic. I know this is one of the first times you've been on one of these, so great introduction. Thanks for that today, Cheryl.
no
All
worries.
right, well, now the time is to turn the floor over to our participants. We've got 6 of you currently logged in here today. So again, I do ask you to keep it to an individual question each time. If time permits, we'll go around again. And to our owners, if you can try to keep your answers somewhat short and concise, that'd be great, just to make sure we get as many questions in as we can. So with that said, I had Ted logged in first. Ted, if you can tell the group where you're located and go ahead with the question for them to answer for you today.
Yeah, hi. My name is Ted McCann. I'm located here in St. Louis, Missouri. And I guess my question is, what other franchise opportunities did you consider, and why did you choose Signworld? And obviously, I understand Signworld is not franchise. I get it, but just to qualify that. But yeah, why did you choose to go with Signworld?
Yeah, great question, Ted. Thanks for asking it. Cheryl, I'm going to go in reverse order. Let's start with you first. Were you considering other opportunities, and why'd you choose this industry, and why'd you choose Sign World?
So I worked with a business broker, Marianne, and Marianne introduced me to Signworld, but she also introduced me. Initially, I thought I wanted to go into, kind of a retail franchise. And so we looked at, believe it or not, what's the sandwich company?
Jimmy
Subway.
John,
I'm sorry,
Subway.
Subway.
Yeah,
Subway. And
big
then
one.
when she kind of did the numbers for me and broke it down by the fact that, you've got a lot of teen employees and there's a lot of spoilage and so forth, you needed like three of those in order in order to make the kind of money that I wanted to make. So that was gone. I looked at check cashing, but given that I'm female and the check cashing is in areas that I don't necessarily want to be leaving late at night, that got abandoned. And then I also had a criteria. I was stepping into a role of helping my son with my granddaughter, who's now like 19, but I didn't want to have to work weekends. So it needed to be 9 to 5. It could operate 9 to 5, but I also had revenue targets that I wanted. And so that was my criteria. And of course, Signworld floated to the top once I evaluated that broader spectrum.
Very good. Thank you for sharing. Mike, let's go to you next. Why'd you choose Signworld?
Sure. I went down the same path as Cheryl with a business broker, entrepreneur source, if anybody knows that. Um, Honestly, the biggest reason I chose Signworld was the Signworld owners I talked to and met. Um, they were extremely helpful, very honest, and helpful. And I'm like, well, there'll be a lot of support here. And I honestly underestimated the amount of support out there if you ask for it.
Great. Thank you very much. How about you, Michael?
Well, as I mentioned, I had no interest in opening my own business. I was perfectly happy in corporate America, but over a course of 4 years, I got eliminated 3 times, or eliminated twice and left one on purpose because it was not a good fit. Um, I literally got to the point where I'm like, I'll take any call that comes in. I need to find something different, something new. And I, as well, Entrepreneur Source found me, and did the Myers-Briggs and all the other tests and everything, and they proposed ideas for me. And I looked at some consulting, I looked at staffing, but the 98-page manual and requirements that the staffing company had was insane. I spent over 8 hours going through it with the company, trying to think, can I live with all these rules? Can I do this? It's not really how I roll. I too was impressed with the owners. Before I will say this is not a sign world. I'm not sure you're supposed to do this, but I visited 12 shops before I opened my first day here. And it's definitely a pay it forward mentality. It's maybe a 4-page contract that gives you 2 or 3 stipulations. And other than that, there's no rules. You've got the back office support, which I love. And I have both cheered and cried on the phone with fellow owners because there are highs and lows in this kind of thing. But it was definitely something that I never thought I would do, but I saw the opportunity. And then I did a couple of the tests when Jack was more involved. He had us doing things like calling sign companies after hours. Call 10, see when he call you back. I had 2 call me back. 80% of those didn't even bother calling me back because that's how the reputation of a great industry, I'll say that. So if you do what you say and you say what you do, you can run a clean, great business. And so I think it was a matter of just a combination of things coming together and then me finding the right opportunity that fit right for me.
Very good. Thank you all for your responses there. All right, let's go to our next participant for a question. Dennis, if I can ask you to come off of mute and tell the group where you're located and go ahead with the question.
Yes, good afternoon. Dennis Hill, calling in from Mechanicsville, Maryland. And my question is, so revenue is great, right? But I was hoping you guys could speak to profit margin. What sort of profit margins can we expect to see in this industry?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dennis. And as a public webinar, I will say owners are not always willing to share their net numbers, but we'll see what these owners on the call here today are willing to do. I will let you know that we do have a federal disclosure and earnings claim document that gives you some financial benchmarks. So if you haven't seen that yet, just do know that we do have that information available. But let's go ahead and ask the owners that question and see what they're willing to share. And let's look at gross margins if you're willing to at least share that, and net margins if you're willing to go to that level. Michael, I'm going to do in reverse order. Do you know what your gross margins and your net are overall?
That's the funny part. I couldn't tell you my gross. Um, I know my cost and my nets are. My nets are mid-teens. And part of that is because one, I offer most benefits, 100% company paid. I've got a lot more days off for my employees than most. We provide food and snacks. I think I spend about $8,000 a year feeding my employees. And I'm trying to build a company that I would be proud to work at. And until I can offer health benefits for all my employees, which I don't have full health benefits yet, I can't semi-retire. But still today, if I was to back out all of the bonus things a small company owner gets, it's close to 20% is where we are.
Okay, very good. Thanks for sharing. Mike, how about you?
Sure. Gross is about 50%. Um, but in this business, your margins are going to vary based on what model you follow and what you decide to make in-house. Because you can't mark up something from a vendor as much as you can that you make yourself. Net has been variable since I just moved, since when I first moved into the new facility, our margins weren't very high and they've been climbing ever since. So they're approaching 20% now.
Yeah, asset utilization becomes a key. Absolutely. Cheryl, you run a virtual model, and I know you're a little, like you mentioned in your introduction, not as willing to share. Anything that you're willing to add to that question?
So I will say that I make about 47 to 50%. And again, it's because of the fact that I operate without overhead. So I get to keep that piece. I'm not sure that I would have been able to say that had I, when I was in the other model where I had a shop and W-2 employees and so forth. But I get to keep about 47 to 50% of what I bring in.
Okay, very good. And again, Dennis, there's more information that we can share with you with our earnings claim and our financial documentation. So more to come on that question. All right, let's go to our next participant, Galen. If you can come off of mute, tell the group where you're located and go ahead with a question for them to answer.
Yeah, hi there, Galen Gates. I'm in the DFW area here in North Texas. Most likely, I'm gonna be staying in a corporate job that pays pretty well. But I have been eliminated from that before, much like you guys have talked about unexpectedly. And so, in your estimation, is it feasible to run the remote or virtual model with a corporate gig that you're still working on?
Great question. So we do promote this model to be an active owner model where you're not working a second job. We do have some owners who have started the models virtually and have been able to do that a little differently recently, but that's not traditionally how it's been set up, just so you know, Galen. But let's just ask them what their perspectives are. So I'm going to start with you, Cheryl, just because you are running a virtual business today. What's your thoughts on that as far as having a different job and still trying to start this business? Pros and cons and what you see can work.
So I probably would not recommend it. I think that there is a very steep learning curve. You don't understand yet what the sign language is. You don't understand how to make a sign. You're going to be learning a lot about different materials, different market segments that you might pursue. So it's just a lot to do. However, if you are married and have a partner, it may be possible because maybe you can extend some of that learning curve to your partner while you also have another means of support, which is helpful. I don't know if I answered your question, but that would be my take.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mike, how about you? What's your thoughts on that?
This is a fire hose. That's all I have to say.
Lots to learn. Need to have the time to do it. Okay, very good. How about you, Michael?
Same here. I think if you're tenured and you've been doing this for 10 years, sure, I could do that. But I'm learning something new every day, and every project is different. And it's not that it's rocket science, but there's a lot of it in so many directions, in so many ways. I went the exact opposite direction. I'm bringing more and more in-house, more equipment, more machines, more control. I maybe it's a control thing, but that scares me, to be frank.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, a semi-absentee business is something where like every day's pretty much the same thing for the business. They're, painting a different house, they're doing different things, and that owner can be somewhat absent and let the team run things. But in this business, there's so much going on, and I think having active owner involvement, we believe, is a critical component to success. So sometimes we've had owners bring in business partners in and kind of share the responsibilities a little bit to what Cheryl mentioned, or a spouse. But there is a lot to learn to the what the owners have said already. So things to think about.
Okay.
All right, let's go to our next guest for a question. Paul, if you can take, oh, you're already off mute. Go ahead and tell the
Yeah,
group where you're
yeah,
located and go ahead with the question.
yeah, I'm Paul, and I'm from the greater Cincinnati area, Ohio. I guess, I mean, I tend to gravitate toward like a red, yellow, green, yellow, red type thing when I seek feedback from, I've got a lot of management experience, but um, what would be, I mean, if you were, yourself back when you started this business, what would you have continue to do more of, like green? What would you have been a little bit more cautious of, the yellow? And what would you have just stopped and not done at all, the red?
Well, Paul, I've been doing these webinars for about 4 years, and I think that's the first time I've heard someone ask the question in that way. So well done. All right, let's go in reverse order. Michael, red, yellow, green. What would you stopped? What would you been cautious of, and what would you do more of?
Um, the folks at Signworld told us in the beginning either follow the model exactly or break the mold. Like be exact on or break it and do your own dang thing. Those have been successful. And I think I wasn't quite on the model as much when I first opened. I was so scared of pricing and put myself in the shoes of a customer. What would I pay? Yeah, forget me. I'm not the customer. I don't ever want to be as a customer. So I started out rates that were much too low. I lost money in my first year, year and a half. I was so focused on grow, grow, grow. I didn't care about profit. It's part of my retail upbringing. It paid off, but not till year two, three, four, and is really paying off now. But I think my pricing was too low. Um, I think I hired too fast in some cases. Employees are the key to everything, and I learned kind of my yellow and slowed down and did is I have gotten to the point where I've given $5,000 relocation bonuses to find the right person to come to live here to work for me. So finding the right people has really been key to my success. Um, and red, I don't know. I opened, my grand opening was 6 weeks before COVID, January 30th, 2020. So when I opened and the phone didn't ring and nothing happened because it was literally late March of 2020, I went door to door trying to sell $99 banners to restaurants to tell people they were still open. And I had plenty of people throw me out. Um, Scrappy, I think is what I'd say. Yeah, that's what got me through. But I don't know if I've had any my biggest red flag is pricing. I was underpriced in the market. And even this week, I've discovered on installations, which we handle in-house, 90% of them, I'm still too cheap. I need to raise my prices places where I can get away with it. So honestly, pricing was my big thing.
Great
Okay,
reminders
thank
there.
you.
Thanks, Michael. Mike, how about you? Red, yellow, green.
Red would definitely be no small ball. When you first start, like Michael just mentioned, going around selling banners for $99, like I wish we could raise our minimum order to 2,500 at this point, because we don't like doing 500 or $1,000 jobs, just because they're just as much work as a $2,500 job, but you don't make nearly the amount of money and the margins aren't as good. Yellow, I think I would just, I was probably too yellow on deciding to upgrade my facility. I waited and waited and waited, and I probably shouldn't have waited as long as I did. And green, you know, believe in yourself, believe in your product, like Michael had mentioned. If underpricing is what will kill you, and pricing properly for the right customer is what's going to make your business highly successful.
Great insight. Thanks for sharing. Cheryl, how about you? Red, yellow, green.
So it's funny that you say you started in COVID. I'm just going back to the year I started. I started when we had an economic downfall. 2008, my life savings, IRA, stock all went to feed my employees and the business because I, at that point, had aged out of corporate. So there was no corporate job coming to save me. I needed to make this work or it was over. So, having said that, you have to also understand how terrified I was because it was kind of like, not only is the economy bad, but if I don't get this right, I'm going to lose everything. The thing that I think I did that I would not do is I put too much faith in other folks. I have a marketing background, an MBA from Berkeley, but I didn't trust myself to not follow the model. So what I would recommend that you do is do an inventory of your skill set, because I could have become much more successful, much more quickly had I used my contacts. Remember, I had the mayor's office, I didn't use, I did use them. So in a way, that was my go. I did use them, but I could have used them a lot more, a lot earlier on. My don't do is the same pricing thing that everybody said. I was trying to get whatever I could get from wherever I could get it. But the little bitty small jobs, they're not worth it. The green would be marketing. You have got to market yourself. You have got to figure out ways, whatever works best for you, but you need to figure that out quickly so you can grow quickly and trust yourself. I kind of went in the direction of I needed to get big contracts very early. I went after builders. I went after city government because those were the people with money because nobody else had any. So marketing, go big, stay away from the small stuff. That's kind of my green, yellow, red.
Love it. Love it. And we got two owners who came into Signworld right during the big recession that we had. And we had Michael with COVID. So I didn't realize how you guys all have some similar startup phase stories there. Good stuff. All right.
Interesting stuff, but I made caskets, funeral caskets during COVID. I mean, it was nuts. I didn't see the light of day. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been so freaking busy. It was that's kind of what started this whole thing, I'm like, no more corporate crap. Sorry.
Yeah. I hear ya. I hear ya. Interesting. Very good. All right. Let's go to another guest for a question. Arthur, if you can come off of mute, tell the group where you're located and go ahead with a question for them to answer.
Yes, hi everyone. Arthur, I'm from Florida, Miami area, and I guess some of my questions were answered, but maybe you could help me with understand how difficult was the customer to acquisition at the beginning. Like what channels do you think that work best in today's world? Is it does the online advertisement brings most of the clients, or like work, like going to the events and meeting people is better?
Yeah, great question. So let's start with you first, Cheryl. You mentioned marketing and your background and your connections. How do you do customer acquisitions? And maybe if you can, I know you started this business a long time ago, but what do you hear is working for other owners as well as newer owners today? Because obviously online presence was different for you when you first started than it is now. So maybe, talk about it for yourself in your startup phase and how you got customers and how you're still getting new accounts today.
Okay, so back in the beginning, I mean, like I said, I was doing like the postage stamp orders because I would take whatever I could get. However, once I kind of got a hold to the fact that marketing in the traditional way was changing, it wasn't about a 3/4 page ad in the yellow pages and joining the local chamber and a BNI. That stuff didn't work for me. But what did work for me was because I had been the face of the bank for so long, I knew how to work the room. So I don't do that anymore because now I have some physical challenges that don't allow it. But I went to the biggest meetings I could with people who were making big decisions about big sign projects or big projects with sign packages in them, and I worked the room. So I networked my way into lots of situations, so much so that we got the Oakland Airport BART connector project working with Turner. We got a 20-story building working with Turner. I went after that stuff. And then as I became a little bit more savvy about the influence of web-based marketing, I had my website redesigned so that it had meta tags. I blogged my heart out. I think I call myself the blog queen. I blog religiously every week, 1 to 2 articles, and that brings in a good portion of my business. So I would say that if you've got networking and immediate connection skills, I mean, I can work a room, work the room, go after the biggest crap you can get. And I'm using crap because, you know, I'm wanting it as a catch-all. You want big stuff. That's the stuff that will keep you afloat. You need that. So however you plan to target, go for big dollars, because the little stuff, as Mike said, it takes as much time to do a $500 project as it does to do a $25,000 project.
Good insight. Thanks for sharing, Cheryl. Mike, how about you? Marketing and getting customers.
So I'm gonna kind of piggyback Cheryl here and say, look at what your background is, and if you've got a network that you can work it. I was unfortunate, and I worked at a bank, and everybody I knew worked at the bank. I didn't know anybody except for the credit bureaus. We didn't network with anybody. I knew nobody. I didn't even know what the word networking meant when I started this business. So in that case, if you're in my boat, you need to find your marketing different ways. And that would be find a really good online company that's trusted, that's worked for sign companies before, because it's a weird niche. Everything is custom. It's really tough to online market it to. Between myself and another gentleman in my mastermind class, Carl, we have spent hundreds of hours trying to understand Google AdWords. I gave up on it years ago, and I just pay somebody to do it now. But still, networking, even if you're not a networker, there are still good networking opportunities. You just have to figure out how to realize which ones are good ones and which ones aren't. Like you'll find, I'm in the Chicago area. There's probably 100 chambers within 10 miles of my house. 4 of them are probably good, but you got to figure out how to find the good 4. And you got to join those, and you got to participate. You can't just pay your $250 and call it a day. And you have to understand which events to go to. You don't need to go to every ribbon cutting. You need to go to when the city does their economic discussion, because the big, people who own companies are there. The people who own big companies aren't at ribbon cutting ceremonies. So you just have to understand where to find your potential clients in a networking situation.
Yeah, great feedback. Thank you, Mike. Michael, how about you?
So I signed my contract in August of 2019. I went to training in September of 19. I got my space in October of 19. Didn't really open till January. So its first several months, it was all about networking. It was Business Networking International. It was Chamber of Commerce. It was getting out there and doing things. And I got my first $10,000 order through a BNI, Business Network International presentation I gave. And then everything shut down and the internet became king. I mean, if you weren't doing any kind of business anywhere ever, if you weren't, internet was the only in every way. Today, I'm still a member of 2 Chamber of Commerce and a Rotarian because I like the people. I attend maybe 2 events of each of those a year now, more social, fun, get out there. But also when I opened, I was able to get the president of one of the chambers to connect me with local media. And I had the ABC local news here for our grand opening. He had them, we were live with Damani Lewis. So those connections really help us start off and go. And then it was internet. And today we've actually recently turned off our pay-per-click because we have more inquiries we can handle, and we turn away 1 in 4 inquiries that comes in at least. So internet's taken over completely, and having a good web company and understanding that and paying attention to that is key.
Very good. All good responses. Cheryl, yeah, go ahead.
Jeannie, can I add to that? I love what you said about BNI working for you. BNI didn't work for me, but what I will say is Govy worked for me. Government events where they're building massive buildings and they have a DBE or a small business or minority component where a certain percentage of that business has to go to smaller companies. That is what worked for me. I networked my behind off at those kinds of events.
Yeah, I think, the chamber and the BNI are definitely the more traditional long time networking groups, but there's a lot of other ones. There's BOMA, Builder Management Associations, there's CREW, Commercial Real Estate, there's Facility Management Associations, there's business networking groups in your communities. You can actually chat GPT and say, if I was a small business owner in the sign industry, what are some good networking groups in my community to join? And you'll see a list of the ones in your market. So we always recommend owners do a hybrid approach, about actually a trifold approach. The personal network that a few mentioned, friends, family, former colleagues, business associates that the community with the networking groups like I just mentioned, and then the online presence. That combination is usually what's most effective to make sure you're getting a good amount of leads coming in. So you have the privilege of saying no to the ones you don't want to do. So that's a great question. So thanks for asking that one. All right, to our last participant, and I want to make sure I say your name correctly. So I'm going to try this one, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounced it. But is it Selam Habib? If you can come off of mute and confirm where you're located and go ahead with the question. Maybe it's Selah. Don't see you coming off mute. I'm not saying the name correctly. If you have not yet asked a question, if you can come off of mute and tell us what your name is. I think this is the first time I've had one of these where I couldn't say the name correctly. All right. Well, they are not coming off of mute. So if you are a participant, if you want to put your question in the chat box, I'll watch for it there as well. But we got time for more questions. So while we're doing this for another round, I'm in the background going to play some slideshows. They're going to show some of our physical locations within our system, some of our owners and who they are, as well as some examples of the work they do, both in-house projects and outsourced projects. And then also kind of a wall of fame, if you will, some unique projects that they've shared with us that are great examples of the daily things that our owners are doing in their communities. So I'll play that in the background. There's no noise to it, and we'll continue with more questions. So with that said, Ted, I'm going to let you go again. Do you have a question that you'd like to ask the group as a second question?
Yeah, as far as the getting the business started, so how long did it take you to kind of reach kind of what we call a break-even point in profitability?
Great question. Let's start with you first, Michael. Do you remember when you broke even? How many months in business was it?
So I'm not the perfect person to ask this to. Again, retail background, sales, 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 and that's all I focused on. I did not truly turn a profit, I'll say, into about 18 months in. I just wanted to grow, and it didn't matter that I had no sales during early COVID. I was still spending my first year, I think I spent $35,000 on marketing to just get out there and get our name and our word out there. It worked eventually, but it took me longer than I believe most owners.
And you weren't pricing as profitably as you should have, right? You already said that one.
I priced vinyl at $8 a square foot installed, which is insane. I'm at 18 to 20 a square foot today.
Yeah, yeah, that's all good. That's all good. Mike, how about you? Do you remember how long until you're cash positive were the sales?
Sadly, I really remember. So I
Okay.
started in the economic trough, in January 2010. So nobody had any money. Cheryl had mentioned it before. So we didn't make money. We didn't break even until year 3.
Okay. All right. That's definitely longer than traditional, but thanks for sharing. Cheryl, how about you?
Well, after having to recover from 2008, I have to tell you that based upon what was going on in the economy, I probably wasn't profitable until about 2012. I just exhausted a tremendous amount of money. I liquidated Apple stock, Amazon stock. I mean, it was like a bloodbath. But once I became profitable, it was chug, chug, chug. And what I'm going to also say, Jeannie, is that I'm going to send you some of my pictures. I got some good pictures.
We will look forward to receiving those, Cheryl. Absolutely.
All
Yeah, those are all
right.
trying
Okay,
times
thank
for you
you.
guys to start a business for sure. So to round out that question, I'll just say that the typical average for cash positive for the virtual model, we're seeing anywhere from month 1 to about month 6 as far as the high and low range. For the physical model, the typical is around month 6, 7, or 8. The long range is around months 12 or 18. A lot's going to depend on your expenses and just things that are happening for you personally, but those are the typical averages. Let's go to another question. Dennis, if you can come off of mute and ask a second question for the group today.
Yes. So can you guys talk a little more about how well, I was about to say franchisor, it's not franchisor, how Signworld, um, their role in marketing as it relates to marketing and support, how active are they, and what they do to help your business.
That's a great question. So I'm going to first qualify that Signworld's not allowed to do the sales and marketing for our owners. That is where we are very different than franchisors. In a franchisor model, they do the marketing of the brand and they do the marketing for the franchisees. We are registered as a business opportunity, and part of that business opportunity law regulates that we cannot do sales and marketing for our owners directly. So we provide guidance and we have partners that do that for them, but we do not. But now I'll turn it over to the owners to answer the question as far as what support we do provide them, so you can get that answered by them directly. So Cheryl started a long time ago. What would you say is the support you receive from Signworld as an owner in our system?
Well, I participate a lot in there are two groups that I participate in, the women owners group and the virtual owners group. And so I continue with those groups because I get a chance to network, I guess, with others, and I get a lot of. I think I give a lot of input, but I also get a lot of output from others. So that's kind of what I do. Does that answer it?
Yep, that's very good. Mike, how about you? What would you say you receive from Signworld as a support for you?
Sure. In the beginning, I had no sales experience, so the sales training was very useful for me. Um, Nowadays, it's the other owners, in the form of a couple things. The first is the mastermind group that I'm in, is filled with some great people. We share some great ideas, get to bounce ideas off of each other and compare results. Um, Sign World owners are the best sign partners. So if you have clients that have needs in other areas and I can call on a Sign World person, I am happy to do that because when they're not Sign World people, it's a crapshoot. You got to hope for the best. Um, and then there's things like the Sign World Convention where you get to learn a lot of things just by talking to other owners. It's great. It's really, if even if Jeannie and company didn't put on these awesome seminars, just being able to talk to the other owners, and because we're all part of the same kind of group, they're willing to share a lot of really cool information.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Mike. Michael, you're the newest owner on the panel today, so you've been involved in some different type of training than we had, when Cheryl and Mike first started. So maybe you can expand a little bit more on the type of training that you received as a new owner, and what you continue to leverage today.
No, I think the biggest advantage is the owner network. We talk about installations. So I've installed my company. So we do focus installation. Out of my half of my employees are installers. So I've got a big install crew, and I've installed for at least 15 to 20 other Signworld companies. I think I've got 5 active orders right now for other Signworld companies. Pinnacle out of Atlanta, I've done 35 jobs for. Because apparently everyone in Atlanta, when they do successful there, they come to Charlotte next. So we've done tons of work. So that's been a huge drive. Also, just the connection. I'm in two mastermind groups. I don't attend all the meetings, but we bounce questions. We've got WhatsApp groups. We've got chat groups. We ask questions. We really rely on each other for answers and assistance. When I've had questions of big projects I don't understand, I've reached out to Sign World in Southern California and said, who can help me? And I have yet to have an owner that say, no, I'm not willing to talk to you about it. Some will spend an hour with you, spend 3 minutes with you, but Sign World is a pay it forward type mindset. And I think that's really one of the biggest things. I do love the conferences. I've been to every single one since I opened, and the connections with other owners and silly little things like pricing sheets for standard DOT numbers. Was a guy did it for boats. I'm like, oh crap, I do tons of those, and every time we're repricing them, I should have a one-page sheet. Here are your options. What would you like? And then I don't have to waste any more time recreating the same thing over and over. And I've gotten a lot of tips and tricks and ways to price, ways to get around, ways to remove, ways to install, ways to so many different things through the network. I very much value the entire network of owners within the group. And that to me is the strongest part of it all.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think as a brand new owner, there's a lot of training you're going to receive from our corporate team. That's going to be specific to help you learn the industry and getting started. And, those first 2 years, you're going to leverage that a lot. But I think long term, as a business owner, the community and the network and all of the other owners is really quite honestly the biggest value of being part of Sign World. There's ongoing support and you're going to leverage it as needed, but the day in, day out, the owner community is just fantastic. So let's go to another question. Galen, if you can go ahead and come off of mute and ask another question for the group today.
I think Galen had to hop off.
Oh, very good. I didn't notice that. Thanks for letting me know. I'm seeing my screen right now with those slides, so I didn't notice that. Thanks,
Oh,
Sherry.
good, yeah.
Okay, Paul, how about you? Do you have another question for the group today?
Yeah, I would, as a, prospective, owner, I would, if I were to want to visit another location, maybe in a different part of the country, how would I go about that?
That's a good question. You got some good ones here today, Paul. So going back to your discovery process, if you were trying to visit an owner in another market, what would be your approach to doing that? Michael, you mentioned that you visited 10. What did you do that?
Well, 12.
12, I'm sorry.
Honestly, I literally just called at the time. I think I called Dan or called Jack and said, hey, I'm going to be in Atlanta. Is there someone I can talk to? I'm going to be in Miami. Is there someone I can talk to? I'm going to be in Southern California. Who can I talk to? And I literally went around, found North Carolina. I just wanted to see how different people ran it and did it. Again, I'd run retail, I'd run businesses, but I had no idea. I knew nothing about signs walking in. So I just kept going and visiting. And I soon discovered I didn't need to spend a full day with a shop. 2 to 3 hours, you can get everything you'd ever need out of a shop and go to the next one. And I did a couple, 2 or 3 in a day sometimes, and just road trip. But I just worked through Sign World as I went through the process, and they let me visit lots of people.
Yeah, very good. Did you go to Discovery Day as well, Michael?
Yes, I did. I did. And
Okay.
it was in before and after I was visiting shops.
Okay, very good. Yeah, because you get to see other ones at Discover Day. Mike, how about you? Did you visit any Sign World business owners before you joined? And or if you didn't, what would you recommend for Paul to be able to do so?
No, I totally did. I went to a Discovery Day and I got some names, and from those people I got other names, because I wasn't maybe 100% trusting that I was being set up with just the good people. And honestly, even now, like I'm gonna, if I go visit my daughter in Houston, um, I'll call a local owner and be like, "Hey, you mind if I stop by? I just want to check out your shop and, shoot the shit." And they are more than willing to if they're going to be around. I mean, and I've hosted dozens of people over the course of the years, so it's not a difficult thing.
I know
Okay,
what I
very
had
good.
in mind. I got a family trip I need to make.
Yeah, no, it's
But, I also, I want to establish a network before I even, you know,
And I would like to say that while mobility prevents me from doing the forums, I have not been doing the forums. I didn't do them in the early years because, of course, timing was really bad for me. I mean, the economy crashed and I was just basically holding on. So for me, it was an expense consideration. Now I could go, but I don't want to kind of have to take my cane and struggle. I only struggle with travel when I'm getting on an airplane and going to Europe. That's kind of like when I like to travel. But I would say that it's a very supportive group. And if you can go to the forums and visit lots of owners, I would highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah. So what you're saying, Cheryl, is you'd rather go to Europe than come to our Signworld convention. I'm taking note of that, just so you know. Just teasing. We have to have our convention in Europe, Sheree. Did you take note of that?
Yeah, I did.
Future
I'm
de-
down.
There
Cheryl,
we
you
go.
can give me
Hey,
some venue
I'll be your first visitor,
recommendations.
man.
Well, I'm biased. You got to remember that's where I'm from. I'm from England. I grew up in England. So I like to, when I'm traveling, I want to go to Greece. I want to go to Italy. I want to go to, those are the places I like.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit, Cheryl.
I want to go to
All
Portugal.
right. Very good. We got time for maybe one more question. Arthur, you're still here. Yes, you are. Okay, go ahead and come off and mute, Arthur, and ask a question.
Hello, this is Diana, Arthur's wife. I'm taking over for Arthur. Thank you so much for all your answers and questions. I guess my little question would be if you could share how does your typical day look like as an owner? How many hours you usually spend working every day? Thank you.
All right. Well, we only have 24 hours in a day, owners. Remember that. So let's talk about how many hours a day do you work and what do you spend your time doing? Mike, let's start with you first. Oh, you're on mute.
Could you repeat the question? My internet glitched.
You're okay. The question was, what do you do with your day? Like, what is the day of an owner about? What's your typical role in
Sure.
the business? And how many hours a week on average do you typically work?
So currently, I work between 40 and 45 per week. Um, Typical day, honestly, I don't know if there is one. The sign business is full of custom work and custom clients. Some days I am in the office all day, and other days, like yesterday, I'm on the road for 6 of the 8 hours, going to visit prospective clients and existing clients because I try to group them together, especially when they're 30, 40 miles away. So that it's very variable. I will say I worked a lot more hours in the beginning because I was dumb and trying to figure out how to do the Google ads and all that stuff myself to save money. And I was just, no, don't do it.
You weren't dumb, Mike. You just didn't know. You didn't know the other
It
way.
was not it was not a good use of my time.
That happened.
It's time I can never get back.
All right. Hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah.
All right, Cheryl, how about you? What's the typical day like for you? And maybe, as a virtual owner, your role is your business is different. So maybe talk about that as a virtual owner, how you spend your time.
So I have things boiled down to kind of systems. So I don't have to kind of touch everything. But I would say I probably, being type A, I admit I'm type A, I work too many hours. So my granddaughter tells me I spend way too much time at a screen. I sit too much and I apologize. But that just kind of works for me, although I work kind of intermittently. I also spend a hell of a lot of time at FedEx because I do a lot of small signs for the various Trader Joe's that I have to mail them, and I don't pay somebody to mail them. I pay my granddaughter to package them up, but I'm at FedEx back and forth because I have a very tight deadline in terms of when they place an order in Service Channel and when it has to ship. It's very, very quick. So I spend a lot of time at FedEx. I don't do pay-per-click, but I do blogging. So I have a system where on either Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'm trying to get out a blog or two. That's my target frame for that. I spend a couple of hours every morning clearing my inbox because I get a lot of email. like I said, I probably, I'd say 45 to 50 hours a week is, but it's kind of intermittent. It's when stuff needs to get done, and I've got it systematized pretty much that works for me. I also have to get my granddaughter back and forth to BART, which that interrupts my time, but I do things in a systematized way. So when I'm dropping her off at BART, I drop her at BART, I go to FedEx, I come home, I clear my inbox. So I've got systems set up for workflow so that I'm not wasting a lot of time.
Very good. Awesome. And last but not least, Michael, how would you say you spend your time as a business owner and how many hours do you put into the business?
So I'm a work hard, play hard. When I'm here, I'm working and I'm working a lot of hours. However, I was just listing last year, I took a week in Italy. I went to the Bahamas. I went to Vegas twice. I went to Los Angeles twice. I was in New York twice. I was in Portland. I was in Florida. I was in Atlanta, all on vacations. So when I'm here, I'm going to 8 days in Ireland next month. When I'm here, I'm usually here 6 days a week. I try and come in on Saturdays just to clear my desk. It never happens, but it works. Or work on strategy or working something else. Um, but I'm leaving at 3:30 today to go to Hardy concert tonight. Um, but I got in at 7 because I'm leaving early, and I'll be back at 7 tomorrow. So my normal day, I'm here about 10 to 11 hours when I'm here. But I also have gotten to a point and systemized enough and enough strong employees that I try not to be here and I make sure I do my vacations.
Love it. Love it. And I love that you talk about systems because that's key, right? Owners getting good systems and people and processes in place, just makes the business be able to operate without your everyday and every, touch involvement. So that's always key for sure. Well, with that, we just heard Michael say that he's leaving at 3 today to go to a Hardy concert, and we are at the top of the hour, so we want to make sure he gets out the door on time. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up our session today. So first and foremost, Michael, Mike, and Cheryl, thank you so much for being on our session today and sharing your stories and your perspectives and your opinions about the business and the industry. We appreciate your transparency and sharing that with the participants. So thank you. And to our guests that joined in, thanks for your interest in learning more about the Signworld business model and the industry overall. Myself and the corporate team look forward to the continued conversations with you to see if this is the right fit for your next chapter in your lives. So with that, I hope everybody has a great Wednesday, a great Memorial Day weekend. And again, thank you for joining our session today. Have a good one.
Thank
Take
you.
care.